At 61, I lost my income, I lost my business, and I was diagnosed with an incurable disease. I honestly thought my life was just falling apart. But somehow that worst year became the beginning of a life that I never could have imagined. Hi, I'm Peggy. I split my time between Florida and Mexico, and I'm sharing what I'm learning about retirement, travel, and living well on a realistic budget. So if that interests you, please subscribe. When COVID hit, I thought my life was over. Within a few weeks, my photography business completely collapsed. My income went to zero. At the time, I was offering photography tours, among other things. And of course, the customers wanted their deposits back, but the travel agents, airlines, and hotels wouldn't refund me. Some of the customers were really nice and kind, but others were just horrible. They threatened to sue me. It was a really, really tough time in my life. And if that wasn't bad enough, I was diagnosed in April of 2020 with an incurable lung disease called bronchiectasis. And it included a serious infection that the doctors said would probably kill me within 5 years. So it was a really, really bad time in my life. But here it is 6 years later. I own a little house in Florida. I own a little house in Mexico. I spend half the year in each. I'm continuing to travel, and my lung disease is stable. My income abruptly stopped in March of 2020 due to all the COVID things going on. Thankfully, I was able to get a job as a census taker in late August, and I finally had a little bit of income coming in after 5 months of zero income. By then, my savings was completely gone, and I was starting to chip away at my retirement savings. So it was obvious that it was going to take me years to recover financially from all this. I hadn't even paid my mortgage in months. So I really wanted to pay back my customers. They entrusted me with their deposits. Of course, I never even touched the deposits. It went directly to the travel agencies who gave them to, airlines and hotels. And we just couldn't get any money refunded. So after a lot of heartbreak, I I finally decided the only way that I could ever pay them back was to sell my house, which was tough. I loved that house. My friends were all telling me, just file for bankruptcy. Obviously, this isn't your fault. It's not like you stole their money or did something deceptive, but I wanted to pay them back. I had no idea what I was going to do after I sold my house. I knew that I wouldn't be able to afford to live in that same city. It's a very expensive city, but I had lived there for more than 30 years and it really felt like home. So I jumped on YouTube and started researching. I learned about the nomads that traveled around and lived on their Social Security. And then I learned about the senior citizens who went to a different country and lived on their Social Security. I wasn't quite old enough for Social Security, but I was almost 62. So after a lot of research, I decided to try a little bit of both. My good friend Joe built a bed inside my minivan. I sold or gave away everything. It was painful because one thing I love to do is decorate with unique thrift store finds. So getting rid of some of those unique things was difficult, but it didn't make sense to pay for a storage space. I didn't even know where I was going to go. I didn't know what I was going to do. Plus, I was considering retiring and trying to live off of $1,100 a month, which was going to be my Social Security payment. I considered moving to Panama, so I went there as soon as my house sold. I rented a little casita for $300 a month. But I found out why it was only $300 a month when I got there, because there was no air conditioning and it was really, really hot. I stayed in Panama about 5 weeks. It just wasn't for me. It just didn't talk to me, I guess. So I returned to the United States and stayed with my sister, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my sickly 62-year-old self, because by then I had just turned 62. I applied for and lined up some pet sitting gigs so that I would have places to stay. I had used the app Trusted House Sitters in the past, both as a pet parent and as a pet sitter. So I had some experience and reviews already. I traveled as a nomad in the United States, pet sitting, staying with my sister, and renting cheap places for about 7 months. I decided I did not like being a nomad. I missed having a home. I missed having that home base. I was talking to a girlfriend on the phone during that time, saying how I wished I could find a place to live in Florida, but I didn't think I could afford any place in Florida because I was only familiar with where I had lived, which was really expensive. So she got on Zillow and she's like, you can live in, a couple different areas in Florida for a lot less money. And I had no idea that there were houses for sale under $200,000. It just wasn't something I had seen in so many years. So I ended up buying a small house in Florida with the proceeds from the house that I sold. Eventually, I sold my photography studio. I didn't make much profit, but I had quite a bit of equity in it by then. So I wasn't broke, but as a woman with a deadly disease, I knew that one hospital visit could wipe out everything. So I continue to live on a very strict budget. Once I moved into the house, I started pet sitting, which I'm sure you've probably seen Noah walking around the back. He was restless. And that gives me money to make my life a little bit more comfortable. I can go to the movies. I have gas money to go see my mother. I can decorate the house, things like that. Because I am very frugal and I am exceptionally good at cheap travel, I have continued to take a few trips. In October of 2022, I went to Merida, Mexico, and I just fell in love with the place. I don't know what it was about the place, but it just called my name. Because I had moved farther north in Florida, it's cold in the winter for me, so I found another source of income in Merida. I have been going to Mexico in the winters where I can find a very nice place to rent for $500 a month and then renting out my Florida home to snowbirds. Anyway, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that life doesn't end when your plans fall apart. Sometimes that's exactly when a new chapter begins. I never expected to retire this way. I never expected to buy a house in Mexico. I never thought I would spend half, my time in Florida, half in Mexico. I never dreamed I would travel all over the world, learn Spanish, just discover so much joy at my age. None of this was part of my plan at all. So if you're feeling like it's too late or you're worried that your best years are behind you, maybe my story will give you hope. Because if I've learned anything, it's this. You're never too old to reinvent your life, and you're never too old to become the person that you're meant to be. That's what this channel is about. I'll be sharing what I've learned and what I'm still going through, the successes, the mistakes, the practical tips, the adventures, in the hope that they'll help you also create a joyful and affordable life of your own, because we're all still becoming. So what about you? How has your life changed unexpectedly? I would love to hear your stories. Put them in the comments.